Alright, we live. What's up? Alright, let's see what we got on Hacker News, man. Okay, and then let me put that in. How SQLite is tested. I think that's pretty interesting, actually. How do they actually test SQLite? Oh, okay. This actually kind of works. Oh, wait. I actually have to be talking to the camera. Okay, okay. Okay, this is kind of interesting, actually. The test harnessing. Okay. Okay. There are 4 independent test harnesses that are used for the core of SQLite, maintained separately from others. Okay, so you have TLC tests. So this is the legacy stuff. Same. They're creating the same source tree as SQLite core, and are in the public domain. Okay, TSCL are used during development, using the TCL scripting language. Okay, there's a scripting language that is used to actually run the tests. 1.2K files, 46,000 tests. But the tests are okay. So, but each of these tests are parameterized and can be actually rerun. So that's actually kind of interesting. That's okay. The next one is the TH3 set of proprietary tests. Yo, what's up? That consists of 100 branch test coverage to the core. Okay, so this is your typical their branch test coverage in the code. All right, run on embedded and specialized platforms that would not easily support TLC. Okay, so this is more or less just a mechanical code coverage thing. So it's like TCL is just their legacy tests that are designed to test older versions and make sure everything's backwards compatible. Okay. SQL logic test is run against SQL statements to verify that all these answers from SQL actually... So, okay, I see. So this SQL logic test is meant to make sure that it doesn't matter whether you use Postgres, MySQL, Microsoft SQL, that if you run the same query on SQLite and these other platforms, you will actually get the same exact result. Sorry, man, we're going to do a VTube stream right now. Maybe next stream. I actually want to see where this goes. Like, I wonder what happens if I get more viewers if I replace my face with a VTuber. I'm actually really freaking curious. And the last one is an engine that is a proprietary fuzz tester. Okay, mutates either SQL inputs or database files. They mutate the SQL and database file at the exact same time and is thus able to reach new error states. Huh. So this is just like a fuzzy test, isn't it? Interesting. Tries to mutate the SQL and the data. I guess it's just mostly for concurrency exceptions. So like, usually the way this works usually is when you query for a row or write to a row, right? It will actually lock the row, and then you end up with this whole dance of trying to handle read and writes, and DDIA actually talks about this a little bit more in depth. But suffice to say that being able to handle read write and making sure that you have the read properly relayed during those writes is actually pretty important. So this is basically just a concurrency test engine. Okay, so in addition, you also have estimates performance test, estimates the stress test under SQLite simultaneously, and then some fuzz tests. Okay, so this is mostly just benchmarking as well, and this you actually will get into this when you get into mega apps and higher order systems, when you actually do need to actually justify the projects and their actual performance. And so what I mean by this is, like, let's say that you want to try and improve the efficiency of Kotlin on your code base, right? You will need to actually prove that in some way, not to mention your compile speeds and how often people hit compile. The reason why is because you want to manage the developer experience on these points. And so having programs like these to monitor your program itself, not just for developers, but also the binary, is actually pretty important. So how do you dig deeper to the system design for a product if they are not maintaining any engineering blogs but open sourced? Do I have to go through the whole code to get a glimpse of that? In a way, yes, because when you go to the L4, L5 level and beyond, you actually need to have the experience, or at least see what system design. You need to actually have the experience of deploying product and designing it in order to actually do it right. Otherwise, you have no idea what you're doing. And this is something that I have run into as well. Where like when I first started off, I thought like I just I figure out what the client wants, and then just write the product and then move on. And that's very much I think the quote unquote system design that people think of. It's like, oh, what do I just like boot up the code from what's it called, like copy a tech stack online or do a full stack program, and then that's it. And most people actually end up thinking that's senior level work, but that's really not. That's like the bare basics of coding, actually. Senior level work and product design really involve like actually scoping out what you need to do and setting parameters for yourself, and for the product as well. So even though you might not have any engineering blogs, the engineering blogs help you get a better understanding of how things are actually going to work together and the types of questions that you need to consider, especially if you want to be thorough about your project. So your question seems to come more from a, how do I say it? It comes from more of a area of inexperience, but don't worry too much about that, especially if you're at the L3 level. It doesn't really matter at this point. I would say at the most part, focus on actually getting good coding habits down. And once you get that down, then you can move up to system design and how to structure your code actually. All right, it's almost 7:59. So we're gonna be talking to our what's it called? We're talking to R again. He did the Amazon interview last week, and so we reviewed his replay last Thursday, and we kind of figured that it was like there were definitely some parts to improve on, but it wasn't actually that terrible. And so we're gonna come back today, see what else we can do for him, and see what else he needs to be done. See if he got the offer and whatnot. So with that, let's bring him on.
Recording in progress.
Hey, Edbert.
Hey, what's up?
How you doing?
Hey, doing good. So how are you feeling after the Amazon offer?
Yeah, it feels great. Like I took it easy last week, like you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel better in terms of like that.
Good.
But like work is still busy, and just trying to get back into the habit of like practicing. So I started like yesterday, and I did the Uber code signal yesterday.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I was like reading posts online, and like it seemed like if you get a high enough score, you could like skip the phone.
Yep.
And that's kind of what I was hoping for, and I got like an 843 out of 850. But apparently, I still gotta do the phone.
What
So
the
I'm gonna
fuck?
give I'm like the recruiter like emailed back to me today and asked for like 3 dates for the phone. So I'm just gonna give him like Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday and see what time he schedules it.
What the fuck? You got 843 out of 850 and it still wasn't good enough? What the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know. He asked, yeah, he asked for like 3 dates for like the phone interview. I'm guessing it's most likely because like I said I want to interview for L4, and
Okay.
he said like he let the interviewers decide, and I'm guessing that's why he still
Hmm.
insists on the phone. But yeah, it's kind of BS. I was kind of hoping to go straight to the onsite.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, we've been trying to kill Code Signal for like literally 6 to 8 months now. I have no fucking idea why they wouldn't just pass you. Like, I think last time we talked about this, like, and this is like inside. I think we basically said that if you got above a 780 or something, we would skip you and go straight to onsite. I have no idea why
Yeah.
we changed
Yeah,
that shit.
that's what I read on Blind and like Leak Code as well. Like I was reading like what people said, and it seems like the common like thing was like, oh, if you got like 780 or like 810, then you should be able to skip the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. I would also say ignore reading what is on blind.
Yeah.
Literally, you have me, so I want you to keep a singular focus on just doing well in the
Sure.
interviews. Don't worry about what other people say. Fuck blind. Fuck everything
Yeah.
else.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, feels great to receive the Amazon offer.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna try to drag it on and see how things go.
yeah. And I think just to reiterate the numbers for I guess the stream, it's basically you got
Yeah.
150 base, you got 47 sign-on bonus, and then you have 28 units of stock, which is like what $96,000.
Yeah, somewhere around that. Sign on is 47 for the first year and then 35 for the second year.
Okay.
It seems like it's like definitely higher than what levels.fyi and like other
Mhm.
places are showing
Yep.
for SD1. So I'm guessing it's definitely like a high SD1 offer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so yeah, you basically broke the band. That's basically what we're saying here. You literally tested so well they had to literally bump their offers and break it for you. So
Yeah, I would say yeah the T. So I don't know how people usually calculate TC. So because the stocks come in like different percentages every
Mhm.
year, right? So is TC like pretty much like the average of like what you receive out of the 4 years?
it depends. People rate it differently, but I think people just use their first year TC just as TC,
I
or
see.
whatever they currently are going to receive. Either way, don't worry about it. You don't
Okay.
have to worry too much. Like we said, we basically broke the band, and
Yeah.
we want to use that to get more. So
Yeah.
right now I'm focused more on like how you're feeling, whether or not you're feeling like burnt out right now. So Saturday I told you to take it easy. Sunday you did the code
Yeah.
signal. You got back into it. How many problems did you do on Sunday, and how'd they feel?
I did like I think like I'm trying to remember like maybe three to five problems. First three problems were fine. I guess like the harder ones was just like well, I feel okay, but definitely just not like I don't think I'm like fully like into it yet. It's just like like when I had to like slow down and like start doing the mechanics, it still feels a little I guess I still feel like a little burnt out.
Okay.
Presumably
I don't want you to focus on the mechanics right now. You like we
yeah.
proved last week. You have the mechanics. What I want you to do is make it smooth, like literally this, like this, and then this, and then this. You know, like
Yeah.
just it should come instinctively.
Yeah, no, it's just like I guess like with problems that I get stuck, I try to kind of get back to it.
Mm-hmm.
I know we mentioned that if I know what to do, then I could skip it. But yeah,
Okay. I mean, yeah, that happens. It's like you're stuck, you get jammed, you're gonna go back to what you know, which is the mechanics, which is like pretty much the right idea.
yeah,
And then I think that's like what triggers your burnout. Is like, oh my god, I have to do all this fucking work.
yeah,
Okay,
pretty much.
I
So
understand that.
but I don't feel burned out like reading on like DDIA
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. It's just like yeah, doing coding problems. I think that's what it's feels
Okay.
kind of burned. If
Okay.
anything.
So, do you feel more comfortable doing like system design now, or do you, or what? How are you feeling about that?
Um, I could we could try doing it. If anything, like I just want to practice like the ability like because you always like I know I've been told like to always talk about the trade-offs and stuff, but I guess
Mm-hmm.
like at the time of doing it, it's kind of hard to like always do it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of what I'm like I'm hoping to practice more, if anything.
Got it. Okay, so this session, what we can do is since you say you have, wait, actually, let me look at your sheet here. I
Yeah.
noticed your practice diary hasn't really been filled out for a while. Did you try going back to it on Sunday, or you just didn't feel like it?
Yeah, I mainly just did the problems directly on whatever I was doing. Yeah, I didn't write it in there, but like this week, I think beginning tomorrow, I'm just gonna go back. I'm gonna go back into it.
Okay, so then let me look at your dates.
Yeah.
So at the top of the list, we had Amazon, which is done. Okay, so yeah. Practice. So Amazon is done. Let me strike that out. Text. through. Google, you're still set for the 14th?
Yeah, still the 14.
Okay, so that's next week. Okay. Uber is the
And
week
then
after that, hopefully.
yeah, Uber hoping the week after that. So I'm hoping to get the phone this week, and then if I pass the phone, then I'll try to schedule the on-site the week after G.
Or what we could do is we could also try scheduling what day is the 14th? Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Good. Okay, so what we could do is if you're feeling ultra good that week, or like
Yeah.
we could schedule for the 17th, and then we could hit Facebook the week of the 20th.
Okay.
Like the 22nd.
I guess like it depends more on like I'll see how my workload is at work. If I think I can get my stuff done and take 2 days off next week, then yeah, I'll do it.
Okay, that's fine. I understand work's gonna be pretty tight, so I'm gonna let's spend this time doing some system design. Again, we're going to go over the big gun, which is Facebook, and
Yeah.
hopefully Uber will give you an L4. But what I want you to do with these, let's see if we have time Thursday. I want to watch you replay Thursday actually. Actually, no. Let's do this. Let's do one problem right now, and then we'll switch to system design because I want to really like put into you like the idea of letting the answer flow. Like, don't worry about the mechanics. Don't only bust those out when you really, really get stuck. But right now, I want to make sure that you get this idea of like flow. And it's very abstract.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still trying to understand what you mean by let it flow.
Like, don't worry about the checklist. Don't worry about like Don't worry about like the things you practice. Go off of instinct, and just fuck it. Like this problem, I want you to say fuck it. I don't care everything that Edbert's taught me so far. I know it. I just need to execute on it, and so I'm gonna do what comes naturally to me, and I'm gonna be comfortable. And whatever decision I make is gonna be the decision that I feel the most comfortable with. Like it's not like the one I'm trying to fight for. Like, oh my god, I need to figure X Y Z out before I do X Y Z. I want you to act completely natural, as if like no one's watching you. And you didn't have to record anything. You just want to do problems just for fun and to yellow it.
Okay, for sure.
Okay, just think like that and let's see where that goes.
Okay.
Okay, so let me find a problem. We've done a lot of problems, so it's gonna be hard for me to find a good one. I mean, IP address is an old favorite. Have you remember that one or you don't?
Yeah, we done it.
Right.
It was the recursion one, right?
Mm-hmm. Let's see what else we do here. Damn. Yeah, you're gonna give me a minute.
Yeah, sure.
Overlapping rectangles?
No, I don't think I've done that one.
Okay, this one's a little bit easier, but requires a little bit of thinking. But and you might struggle a little bit with it, but I do want you to like try and express this idea of trying to you know what I mean, like just flow through the problem instead of trying to force your way to it. Okay.
Okay.
All right, let me open the timer. Oops. And then let's go. So, rectangle overlap. So rectangles are represented by x1, y1, x2, y2, where x1 is the coordinate of the bottom left-hand corner, and x2, y2 is the coordinate of the top right corner. So given two of these to represent two rectangles, return if these two rectangles overlap.
Okay. So x1 and y1, bottom left.
And I can't stress enough. Just chill. Do whatever you feel like. Even if you get the answer completely wrong, it doesn't matter at this point.
Okay. I guess like what I like to do now is like kind of visualize this. So like I would like to kind of have an example. So let's say x2, y2 is 10, 5. X1, y1 is 5, 0, I guess. So let's see what this would be like. X1, y1 is the bottom left. Okay, got it. Okay, so we know rectangle has like 4 sides, and I guess like if we want to check if it overlaps, we need to check basically if it kind of overlaps. Any of the sides overlaps, I guess. So let's see. Top line would be basically, let's see, it would be x2, I believe. Yeah. Right side would be y2. Yeah. Left would be y1. Bottom would be x1. Okay. Let's see. And how many? Well, yeah, I'm trying to see like how many ways two rectangles can overlap.
Okay.
We have the classic, I guess, horizontal overlapping. This translates to, I guess, like, yeah, the y coordinates intersect. Y represents vertical lines. And then we have the vertical overlapping coordinates, horizontal lines, intersect. Those are the two basic ones. Let's see what else. We can have like one rectangle inside the other. Yeah, and I guess like every other combination, yeah, every other possibilities would be like a combination of like one or like all of these that we have. Let's see. Let's try to generate some examples to see what this would look like. So rectangle 1 would be 5, 0, and 10, 5. 2 would be y coordinates. Okay, so x is going to be the same. Wait, sorry, just trying to, sorry, horizontal, yeah, horizontal, okay. I guess the x, actually, sorry, I messed this up. Five. So that rectangle 1 is from 5 to 10. So I guess if this is anyway between, if it's 2 to 6, that's an overlap. But I guess we also have to make sure that as they overlap horizontally, they're not completely away in terms of like vertical. Because say if this is like 10, 15, then even if the x intersects, then it doesn't quite matter. I guess like, yeah, we need to check both the horizontal and the vertical overlapping. Let's see. Okay, I do know. Let's check both vertical and horizontal lines. Yeah, I guess this is hard to draw, huh?
I mean, you can do your best.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm just trying to visualize it, and it's like kind of having a hard time with that.
Okay, just draw the lines arbitrarily and see where that gets you.
Okay.
Like, don't do it in your head. Remember, just draw it out. You're good.
Okay. Okay, so we have a rectangle. Okay, we have another one. Okay, so even if this overlaps, okay. Okay, I think drawing it out kind of helps. I think what I want to check is if, because we know the furthest points, yeah, the furthest a rectangle can reach, it's going to be like the 4 corners, if that makes sense. And then what I want to do is see if any of the corners of one rectangle lies in the area of the other rectangle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean that kind of makes sense. You're looking for
Yeah.
if one area of the rectangle lies in the other. That's fine.
Yeah.
But then how do you want to express that?
Yeah. So yeah, first I need to. I guess like we have to know we need to know the area or like the bounds of the area of one rectangle.
Mm-hmm.
And if we have the four corners of the other rectangle, then we can determine kind of determine that. I'm trying to think. Okay, if one rectangle's corner is in the other rectangle's area, then I can say vice versa as well. Yeah, should be a mutual relationship. Let's see. So four corners. How do we get this? Let's tackle that first because that's a little easier. If we have, let's take the example we have up there. So top, okay, so we already have two corners. Now we need the other two. So this is bottom left and top right. Okay, so we need top left and bottom right. So top left would be the x1, y2. Yeah, x1, y2, and bottom right would be I guess x2, y1. Yeah, x2, y1. So that would be x2, y1, x2, y1. Okay, so we have four corners. Now we need to know the bounds of an area. Okay, say I have these four corners. Let me. So I have 0, 5, 5, 0, and 10, 5. So how do I check if it's within another rectangle? Let's see. Given, okay, so we can say it's inside if, yeah. So let's see, for each corner, we have x and y. For it to be inside another rectangle, x here has to be within the range of, I guess, like the second rectangle is x1 and x2, and y here has to be within the range of y1 and y2. And these two are going to refer to the other rectangle.
Okay.
Let's see if that makes sense. One, two. Yeah, I think this makes sense for me now. If a corner is inside the other rectangle, then it has to be within the bounds of the other rectangle's furthest points. So with x, we can check x1, x2. Okay, so I guess let me conclude the idea I have. Given two rectangles, we can just calculate the four corners of rectangle 1, and then check if any of the corner lies within rectangle 2. Do this by checking against the range of x and y in rectangle 2. Yeah. So this is what I have. I'm just trying to think like if there's any edge cases that this doesn't cover. Let's see. We have, if it's non-overlapping, then let's see. Yeah, this should be covered, overlapping with horizontal, vertical, and like other types. I guess yeah, as long as we check four corners, we should be covered. We also covered in terms of like inside another rectangle, since we're checking the range anyways. So yeah, if that sounds good to you, I'll go ahead and start to code this out.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah. you have any concerns?
Again, treat this like as you would as if I'm not
Yeah.
here, and you're like practicing.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, no, but just treat it like you're free to do what you want.
I see. Um, in that case, yeah. If this is just like me practicing myself, I guess I would like to kind of see like yeah, like if it try with a couple of examples. But then it's just hard to draw. So I'm gonna try my best to just test it with like one or two examples I have.
Okay.
So I have this rectangle. So we know it goes from, yeah, this is
Okay.
bottom left, top left, top right, bottom right. Say yeah, yeah, this is this. Screw this. This is I'm trying to like come up with another rectangle, but I feel like the work is a little too much. So I'm gonna let's see. I think yeah, I think actually I think based on what I have, we should be good. Just need to make sure we check those stuff. Let's see. Okay. Overlapping rectangles. Self R1, 1, 2. I assume these come in tuples, so I'm just gonna break them into. So I'm gonna go back to your question. X1. Oh, okay. Represented by that. Gonna copy paste it from the top.
Okay.
So R1, R2. Okay. So I guess like yeah. R1, X1. Be a lot. A, B. I'm gonna use A and B to represent the two rectangles.
Okay. Sure.
2, R1. So first I gotta do 4 corners. Okay. Corners. Maybe one, one. We said
Okay.
this one, right, 2. So we have 4 corners. Next thing we want to do is check if it's within the range. So for corners, we have X and Y. Okay, so let's see. Y. Okay, if it's on the same line, what's that? I'm trying to, yeah. So in terms of compare, yeah, I guess I'm just wondering when I check the range, if it should be graded strictly graded or equal to, let's see, if a rectangle overlaps with another, if Y is the same, X is within. Okay, it has to be, yeah, at least one of it has to be inside. Let's see. One of it has to be inside. Y, X is inside. Doesn't matter. Okay. Go back. X is
Mm-hmm.
2. Let's see. This should. Yeah, I think that should be pretty much it. I guess like the next thing to do would be to test this.
Okay.
Say I have a non-overlapping one. What would that look like? Like I could just use like large values. Okay, I think this would be this is bottom left. Bottom left, top left. Okay, so let's see. With this example, I have 0, 5 is, okay, let's see. This range is 10 to 20, is 0 to 20. Yeah, in range, same goes for 10, 10, 5. If we have something similar, let's say this is 8, I guess. Okay. 5 is between, nope, 5 is not. If it was negative, almost overlapping. One, let's see. Okay, so it's to -1, 20, 5, 0. Okay, so Y range is overlapping, but X is not. So we can say this is not overlapping as well. So that's good. The last I would try a overlapping one. 0. Let's see. Yeah, 10.
Okay. I'm gonna
Yeah.
say you're overthinking the testing, but so
Yeah.
let's pause it here just to sake of time. But I think you did a pretty good job.
Okay.
So I'm gonna stop it here because I think you pretty much had the right answer.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. I just like I'm just like taking too long to test this just because like it's very hard to kind of like type out the coordinates and then picture like what it looks like and then find like type out like the test cases, if that makes sense. I think like
That's
what
fine.
could have made it easier or made it easier for myself to test is instead of starting with 5-0, I think starting with like if bottom left was 0-0, then I think it would have been a lot easier for me to
Yep.
test.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the one thing I realized like halfway through here. I was like, shit, if I had just made this 0-0 to 10-10, then it would have been like a lot easier to test and
Mm-hmm.
picture it.
Mm-hmm.
But given the example, I just kind of use it and it just gave me a hard time testing it.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think that you basically did pretty well here. I'm going to say that you correctly identified you basically need to have the horizontal and vertical overlapping solution. You did kind
Yeah.
of abandon it a little bit, but then you kind of recovered it at the end when you realized you were trying to test one corner inside of a rectangle. So you did eventually
Yeah.
realize it. I don't really have any gripes about what you did here.
Yeah.
Definitely. So basically, I think that you did fine. The overlap, I would say this is definitely just a result of you trying to cover all your bases.
Yeah.
But I think if you had relaxed a little bit more, you would have realized that all the different ways that they
It's
overlap versus all the ways they don't overlap.
yeah.
And I think your rule
It
would have been pretty good.
yeah. So yeah, I feel confident enough with the solution. It's just like since we're also streaming, I was just like I also feel like a little bit of pressure just like testing it. That's why I was like trying to cover all the bases. But as I was picturing it in my head, like and as I explained above, for any situation if they overlap, like one corner has to be in the other.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, you did fine on that part. So don't worry about the stream. Don't worry
Okay.
about it. It's like you're pretty much on, and you already have like the first result anyway, so you don't have to prove anything to anyone else at
Okay.
this point. So all that's left is just for you to like run with it. So what I can see here is that the paranoia comes from testing, and don't get me wrong, that happens to everybody. But
Okay.
from what I saw, you coming up with the initial algorithm is pretty clean. How did you feel doing this problem?
I feel yeah, don't feel too bad. Initially, when you first gave me, it felt like oh shit, like how do I do this? I was just like trying to picture it. But
Mhm.
as I was kind of like doing like what I was like thinking, like I
Mhm.
was just like okay, I was just like going with like what I think.
Mhm.
So initially, like my initial thought is that okay, if they overlap, then the horizontal line or like the vertical lines would kind of
Mhm.
overlap. And then I thought about like, wait a minute. If only one of them overlaps, that doesn't mean the other one overlaps too. Or like, yeah, just because one of them overlap doesn't mean the two rectangles
Mhm.
overlap. So that's when I decided to draw this out. Even though I didn't do much with it, but once I draw it out, I immediately the idea that the corner idea immediately came to mind.
Mhm.
And I felt like that was the breakthrough. Once I had the idea that one corner has to be within the other, I just had to break down like, okay, what are the two things I need to know? One is the four corners, and the other one is the bounds.
Mhm.
I just like tried to figure those two things out, and once I had those two things, it was like pretty clear like what I needed to do. And because I also determined that this relationship is mutual, so I don't need to check both ways. I could just check one way, and I should be good with it.
Mhm.
So yeah, I actually didn't feel that bad doing this.
Good. Like that's the way it should be. You basically should be at a point where you don't actually need to do too much at this point. Like
Yeah,
you understand exactly what to do, and like you said, the thought just kind of came to you, right? You didn't
yeah,
have to do that much to actually try and figure things out. The thoughts all just kept naturally. So does this help you? I guess build a little bit more confidence in yourself, or how are you feeling about that idea of like let things come naturally?
yeah. I feel better. I think I just need to like I'll probably go and try like do like easier problems
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow, and like I think that would help me build up the
Mm-hmm.
confidence. I realize that also affects me a lot when I approach problems.
Mm-hmm.
Like on a good day when I feel confident, typically when I try a problem, like
Mm-hmm.
I make progress a lot quicker
Mm-hmm.
than on a day where I feel discouraged.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
at least you have the toolkit to be able to do the problems whether you're discouraged or not. It just takes you a
Yeah.
little bit longer to do it when you're discouraged. But
Yeah,
I want you to like
exactly.
try around with these easy problems, just like flow with it, just try and see where that takes you. Because I think that it will help you relax and you'll do a lot better and faster on these problems. Because like you said, the Amazon interviewer wanted you to speed up, right? And I think this is gonna be the easiest way to help you speed up without getting sloppy.
Yeah.
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 But always like
Yeah, I felt the same too doing the code signal yesterday. Like when I tried doing the sample, like the practice on Saturday, they allow you to practice once. And like, first two problems, like I kind of struggled just because like I guess on Saturday I just wasn't feeling it. I like really hated doing it. But then on Sunday when I finally attempted it, it actually went by pretty smoothly. I completed the first three problems. I did like 1, 2, 4 first. So I did the first and second problem within like I think 10 minutes, and I did the fourth problem in like 15 or 18, and the other one in like 20 plus minutes. So
Yep.
so yeah, I actually felt pretty good doing the code signal.
Yeah, you should be like and you got an 846 or 843 from that. So like, what more can you ask for?
Yeah.
What are they gonna really fuss you over those extra 7 points?
No, they have like even on code signal they have like the tier. So I was like in the top tier. So I was like kind of hoping like the recruiter would just get back to me and say like, oh yeah, let's go to on site.
Yeah, and I was hoping that. I mean, I can try to talk to them. Reach out from my side if you can. Yeah, send me forward me the email actually. Edbert@uber.com. Forward it to me, and I can see if we can get you around that.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
think
I'll still reply. Should I wait for you, or should I just reply to him and give him a few dates and then
Just give him a few dates, mention my name, and say, hey, since I did so well, would it be possible to skip directly to on-site?
Okay. I think this is what I'll do. I'll give him 3 dates for the phone interview, like he asked. But then I'll also mention that, hey, like, with that score, is it possible to go to onsite? And if I were to do onsite, I'll give him a few more dates.
Okay.
And I'll forward it to you as well.
That's fine. I think that's perfectly
Yeah.
reasonable. But
Okay.
yeah, I do need, yeah, like forward it to me. I'll see what I can do to help you on my end.
Yeah, no worries. I don't want to give you too much pressure. It's totally fine.
Okay, that's fine. So then let's do another. We're gonna do a problem this time. We're gonna do like another system design problem.
Okay.
And what I want you to do is the same thing. Actually, let me ask. How, since I think you mentioned that you tried to contact your guy for like another interview, or you tried submitting something to him before, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what was the feedback from him?
Which one you talking about?
So you did an interview with one of the guy who used to be a manager,
yeah.
right? And then he became an engineer. And then the last thing you did with him was like the Facebook product. God, I can't remember which one it was. It was the Facebook newsfeed, I think.
No, wait, was it?
Wait, let me look at your
No,
sheet.
friends of friends. Sorry.
Friends of friends, right?
Privacy. Oh, privacy. Yeah, privacy.
Yeah.
That was what was
Got
it.
it. Did you have any other talks with him before, like any other practices, or nothing happened?
No, nothing happened since then, but I plan to have another one potentially next week. Mainly because like we've just been busy doing holiday stuff.
Fair. Okay. So what I want you, let's do this. Since we're pretty much at where we have been talking about user stories and everything, let's do another system design. But I think we might lean it towards more. I wonder if we would do system or product.
The only thing I don't feel confident in like system like classic is like the quantitative analysis, but everything else like I'm actually up to try it.
You mean the what's called the estimates?
Yeah, like the numbers.
Okay, got it. Actually, that's funny because I do have a video that's gonna come out hopefully this week with my editor gets it done. That I actually do a run through of a sample problem. But basically, the estimates are usually just a guiding compass. They're not a hard and fast rule. They're more a way for you to say, hey, these are going to be our pain points. So, for instance, if we are doing a problem that is particularly read heavy, we may want to optimize for like the sharding might not be as bad, right? But if we have like a one-to-one read to write, then our operations on the database become insanely difficult. That's basically what all the numbers are going to tell you. They're going to tell you like where you need to put your focus. So another thing. So like for instance, let's say our database is going to be like maybe 2 terabytes, right?
Yeah.
Well, we don't need to do like so much sharding necessarily. We just need to do replicate. We just need to replicate the server because 2 terabytes of data is like nothing, right? We could go to
Yeah.
Best Buy and buy a freaking hard drive, and that'll be fine. Just as long as we don't get like a high number of requests. But if we do
Yeah.
get a high number of requests, then we need to synchronize different databases, and that's a whole different story. But if we have like say 200 terabytes of data, then we actually need to start doing sharding.
Okay.
That's all the numbers are going to tell you. They're going to tell you like, hey, approximately at this level, what is our pain point, and then if we need to actually even address it.
Yeah, but I guess like it's just like the coming up with those numbers. I know they're not like a hard requirement, or like they're not like they don't define much. They just act more like a guideline. I guess it's a small like coming up with those numbers. That's I need to memorize like what the size like a typical image is, and like text and all that, and then like do the multiplications and all that.
Honestly, like I honestly just estimate images to be 500 kilobytes because I mean you look at any image that you download on Google, right? Like Google Images is going to give you like a 500 kilobyte image if it's like 800 by 600, and then like it'll be a couple of megabytes if it's like high resolution,
Yeah.
I usually just pick 500 kilobytes, 1 megabyte, 2 megabyte. That's it.
Okay.
It's like I don't need to like get super detailed. I literally just guesstimate it myself.
Okay.
And then if the interviewer says, "Oh, well, maybe it's something a little bit higher than that," then it's like, okay, fine. But it's just more or less like, as long as they're ballparking reasonable numbers, you should be okay.
Okay.
Okay. So let's actually go. Let me go ahead and give you a problem. I think this one could be a good blend of product and system. So let's go ahead and see that. So.
Okay.
And then timer, where are you? Where'd the timer go? Oh, there it is. All right, and then here we go. So I want you to design Facebook Marketplace. And the scope of what I want you to do is that a buyer, let's say a merchant, should be able to list his or her items, right?
Yeah.
For a price, and then update them. And then a seller should be able to view and buy.
Okay. Let's see. Merchant lists items for a price, update them. Okay. I'm just gonna kind of list out like what are like the full like capabilities of like these types of users you mentioned. So merchant, they can basically list an item, and I assume they can also delist it. Listing an item, I guess like we would need price and quantity. Delist, I guess like we would just kind of remove like the remaining quantity. Let's see what else. Yeah, update prices, and I guess like quantity. We have like other stuff that are not so important. I guess like description, images, stuff like that. Let's see, seller, they can basically see listed items, buy them. I'm just trying to think like, okay, users would be buying, so I guess like how it would look like from a buyer's perspective, they would just kind of like see items listed, and they would just kind of click on a button and kind of say they would kind of add to cart. I guess like let's just kind of list add to cart. This determines quantity, and then check out, and eventually pay. So that's what I guess that's what we mean by buying. Yeah. So okay, so just to make sure I'm on the right track, Marketplace does have a lot of features. I guess like we're only focusing on like purely users being able to upload items, update them, as well as buying items. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're just handling the basic transaction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. So initially I was kind of thinking like we would have like two types of users, but then we don't want to limit a merchant to just be able to list something, right? A merchant may want to be selling something as well.
So you're saying buyers can be sellers and sellers can be buyers.
Yeah, because like when I picture when I think of like marketplace, I don't. Yeah, I picture more of like I'm able to go in. I can obviously look at the items that people listed and buy them, but I could also like choose to list items, kind of like similar to eBay, or unless like you're thinking about something similar where merchant would be a business account, and it's like kind of more like a store. So I just want to clarify like what you're thinking like having in mind.
Yeah,
in
so
terms of,
let's
like,
treat it like a
merchant.
store then. I think you bring up a good point. So let's treat merchant like a store here.
Okay, okay. Then that would make it easier since we have that kind of fine line drawn between merchant and buyer. Okay, so that's like the two main entities we have. Yeah, I guess we'll have merchant, buyer. These are basically two types of different users we'll have. And let's see what else we have. Basically, product. Yeah. And do we want to also like talk about like the actual orders created and stuff like that, or do we not care about the actual order processing? Because in that case, we also need to have like order items, stuff like that.
Let's table that for now. If we have time,
Okay.
we'll go to it.
Okay. So let's see. The main three things we have: merchant, buyer, and product. Okay. So what I'm thinking is that we obviously have a web server. I'm just kind of bringing up like a very simple flow. So a web server or application server will do stuff like a basically listing items. Yeah, listing items. So let's see what else. Picking, yeah, I'd say processing transactions. Let's actually categorize the types of actions it can do. So products allows merchants to upload products, allows merchants to edit products, and then let's see what else. Yeah, allows buyers to yeah, basically purchase products, and I assume we won't have to do much with login, authentication, and stuff like that at this point. We can assume that I'm gonna assume that once people are at marketplace, they're already logged in, and that's gonna be handled by a different team. So yeah, okay. So we have the user data, stuff like that. Okay, so I guess web application, and then I guess like which is product. I guess it also needs to do a transaction.
By the way, do you want to use the what's called the Excalibur that we did before?
Oh yeah, actually I think that might make it a lot easier.
Sure. Give me a second. Let me go ahead and introduce a new workspace. Give me a second.
Okay.
Yeah, because I noticed that you're kind of struggling with that. So.
Yeah, I was like, I wanted to draw a box, but I was like, wait a minute, this is Google Docs.
It's all good. It's all good. Give me a sec. Let me go ahead. What the fuck? Actually, let me save this. Okay, let me delete this, and then I will invite you to live start session.
Okay.
Let me copy this.
And can you post it in the Zoom?
Yeah, I'm gonna post in the Zoom. I'm doing that
Zoom
right
chat.
now.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Can you draw?
Loading. All right. Can you see what I'm typing?
Hold up. I don't see you at all. Can you see me?
I don't see you at all.
Wait, do you see the circle?
No. I'm like fully zoomed out too. Oh wait, let me try again. I think it just brought me to a.
Weird.
Yeah, it just brings me to excaliburdraw.com. It doesn't bring me to your specific session.
Do you see the circle I drew?
No, because I don't think I'm in the same session as you are. even though I clicked the link
Okay.
you gave me. I'm just gonna copy paste the link and open a new tab instead of clicking it from Zoom.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I see it now. Because I clicked it from Zoom and it just redirected me to like the general.
Okay, so you do see
Like,
this. You do see it now. Good.
yeah, I see it now. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
So let me
So
actually. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So, sorry.
Yeah, I'll copy and paste your text from before.
Okay. I'm just gonna draw the web server and stuff that I was talking about.
That's fine.
Wait, how does this? Okay.
And then yeah, keep in mind that you can just click for library, and if you want specific components.
Okay.
Oh wait, you don't have them, right? So let me go ahead and give them to you. So here's a database for you. Here's a. You decide to use relational. Here's object storage. Yeah. And then let's say you have a pipeline. I don't know if you do. Service. And then you have let's say cache. And then let's say server. And then you have application server. And then, let's put a baby Yoda for the user, end user.
Okay. We're gonna zoom that in.
Have fun.
Okay. All right. So very simple solution is that if the volume is like super small, we can have like a merchant and buyer object here, and then they will kind of interact with the. Let me draw arrows. They're gonna interact with the web server. And it's like, we'll have a database. For now, I'm kind of leaning towards relational, just because we want to be able to kind of like look up like all the items a merchant has listed and like all the items a user has bought and stuff like that. So right now, I'm just kind of leaning towards relational. But if that turns out to not, help us as much, we can kind of come back to it later. Sure. So yeah, I'm just gonna. How do I make this arrow bidirectional? Okay, got it. Yeah. So this is a pretty simple solution I have right now. Is like the merchant can log in and obviously go to marketplace. They can obviously add products. I guess like sticking to the same terminology. List products. And delist products, edit existing listings, and then users can view listed products as well as basically buy products. So yeah, let's actually focus more into like what the flow would look like for merchant now. So they come, merchant, with the marketplace. They UI will through the UI they'll say like add new product. And obviously let's kind of list out some of the key information that they would need to give us. So we obviously want the price. We can say product ID. Actually, no, not product. I guess SKU. We can. I mean, it's more of like a metadata, or like we have to ensure like each product is like a unique product. So I'm just gonna say SKU for now, assuming that merchants would not list duplicate products. Just making that assumption, and we have a SKU here. Price SKU, and then I would say quantity.
Wait. SKU stands for same.
I think it's stock keeping unit. SKU. So it's kind of like a unique identifier for a specific type of product. You could kind of think of that as that. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So SKU is like the unique identifier for a specific product, kind of like the barcode you scan. So we have price, SKU, and then I would say quantity. So in this scenario, the initial quantity listed here is the available to promise, or like I guess like on hand quantity that they can sell up to, and then they could also see a list of products they have listed. I guess like out of stock, or like yeah, I'm just gonna use like out of stock would still show up here because they even would still show up here, and then like available would still show up here as well, and they could always edit listed products. Okay, and regardless if it's out of stock or available or not, they can always kind of delist a product. So that's kind of like what I have in mind. And then let's just go into a little more detail on the buyer side, and then we'll kind of talk about like what the database schema will look like. So buyer, come to marketplace, same thing. View listed products. And let's see, they can obviously click on a product, see more info, choose to add to cart. We have to kind of decide on quantity. I guess like one important thing here is that they cannot choose a quantity higher than available. And obviously check out, I'd say like buy it. Okay, so that's kind of what I would assume for a simple solution in terms of like the user flow. Let's actually dive into the what I think the database schema will look like. So I mentioned I'll have a product, and I will have merchant, user. So let's see. Wait, actually, let's not type it in the same text box. Okay, I'm just gonna start with product first. So product, we mentioned it will have the price. We have the SKU. Obviously, I'll also have like its unique ID, product ID. Price, SKU. Let's see what else. For now, we can say on-hand quantity. Int string. And as well. And right now, I'm just kind of assuming that we are only doing US-based transactions, because if we want to expand this internationally, price is no longer just going to be a field itself, because then we need to start supporting different currencies and like different, basically like different prices for like different countries, and that complicates things a lot. So right now, I'm just going to assume that price here is always going to be a US dollar value, if that's okay. And then if we have more time, we can.
Now, I think you acknowledging that is fine.
Okay.
Sure.
And then merchant, we have user ID. I guess like we'll have what does it have? Listed products. List of products. Okay. I guess like going back to product, this also means we ideally we have a store ID. This would point to merchant. List of products. Okay. And let's see. Okay, if it's delisted, then I would assume that we would just delete it. And so it shouldn't show up here. Let's see. Okay, I'm just gonna jump to buyer for now. Buyer should be relatively simple. We have a user ID, I guess like payment information in order to enable transactions. This could be a more complicated entity, but we shouldn't need to dive into that right now because that's kind of out of the scope of the question. Let's see, what else do we need? Edit. Okay. I think this is from a basic standpoint. This should be what the different fields look like on the backend. In terms of like, do you want me to kind of talk a little more now on like what would the API look like, or like how would the actual changes happen in terms of to these stuff I've listed here.
Yeah. Like I want you to think about like the shortcomings of like your current design, how this might actually be arranged in terms of like services. Like what
Okay.
services are you assuming already exist?
Yeah,
What supporting
sure.
infrastructure do you have, and why? And
Yeah.
what kind of infrastructure do we need to have?
Yeah, totally makes sense. So right now, let's start small. We'll say that everything is stored in the same database. Um, when I guess like yeah, when users log in, let's see what we talked about. I'm just gonna scroll to the text I wrote earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we gotta okay over here. Okay, I guess it doesn't cover everything. Um, let's actually yeah talk about listing products. So when a buyer goes in there, they need to be able to see all the listed products. Now the listed products we may have like a lot of listed products, but we only need to show them a certain amount.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna assume that we have a let's see, let me draw another one out. Let's see, how do I say this? We can say a ranking server that kind of
Okay.
manages like because we know that users will have different preferences and like based on the history of like what they have bought in the past, we may want to show them certain products
Okay.
more than other products. But that shouldn't be something that we need to deal with. I guess like for our concern, I'm just trying
Okay.
to select this.
Yeah. You want to select it?
Okay, got it.
You got it. You got
I'll
it.
just
Okay.
put it, yeah, I'll just put it somewhere here, and it should be something that talks to the server we have.
Okay. So this ranking server is a recommendation. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think recommendation is a better word.
Okay.
Um,
So then they
actually,
would recommend
actually, sorry.
products. Okay. And then the
Um,
user would have a list of.
so
Okay. I see.
so yeah. So recommend. So yeah, web server. The application server we have. Will pull a list of products from the database.
Mm-hmm.
That list could be extremely large. So I guess like in that case, if we want to support stuff more like that, I guess we for the product side and the database schema, we may want to store category or type. And depending on like the types of and categories of like things we sell, this could be an enum, or it could be a defined set, depending on like what we have. So for example, we can have clothing, that's one category. We can have like I would say like what else? A furniture, automobiles, stuff like that.
Okay.
So I guess like based on the user's preferences when they come in, the web server would try to pull products of that certain type that they know the
Sure.
user may be interested in, and
Okay.
the ranking server will handle the actual the listing. So I guess like in terms of like showing and users should be able to scroll and see more and more products. So I guess like we may want to let's see if we in that case yeah I guess like it's fine. We don't need to initially I was thinking like we would do a WebSocket, but then we don't necessarily I would say need real time in the sense that so that the sorry what I mean is that the user can log in, view products, they can scroll down, and that should give them new products to look at. But
Mm-hmm.
then we don't necessarily need to reflect. Do we need to reflect live changes? I'm kind of thinking out loud right now.
Mm-hmm.
If they're looking at a product and the merchant changes it, I guess they actually do need to know immediately, because if I'm looking at a product and I want to buy it at $10 and the merchant changes it to 12 or like
Mm-hmm.
15, I may not want to buy it anymore. So they also need to be aware of like the price changes,
Mm-hmm.
or like any edits to the products that they're looking at. Okay, so let me note that down as well.
Okay. Good point.
They basically have to. Right now, I'm just saying like subscribe to product changes. It only applies to products they're seeing. I guess we can do this different. We can do this in two different ways. I think right now. So one way is that if they're looking at like 50 products, we can obviously like have them subscribe to all 50 products, and every change to those products will reflect on their
Okay.
webpage.
We'll pause. Why do you think the subscription model is the right one here? And where are you gonna put the subscription model?
No, I'm actually I'm about to. So I mentioned there are two different ways we can do this. I'm actually going to mention why I'm not going to do this particular one.
Okay, sure.
So I said we have two ways of doing this. One is that we can obviously show like for as many products that the user is seeing, we will have that many subscriptions. But then a user may not actually care about like a product, even if it's showing up in his page, because he may not be actually actively thinking about buying that one. So like from a UI perspective, I guess what we can do is that we don't need to subscribe to live changes for like all the products that the user is seeing. What we can do instead is if a user is interested in a product, they will click on it. And at that point, if they do click on it, we know like, I'm going to assume that a user can click on one product at a time. So when they do click on it, because we're not going to have all that information upfront, we may pull more information from the backend database when they click on a product. And at this point, if the product was updated, we can also pull those updates, if that makes sense.
I want to put I want to put a pin in that right now. A few things.
Okay.
First of all, I want to go back to your schema before I address this. The first thing is that, well, your product is going to may also have some images associated with that. So you might want to consider that. And the second one is, well, the buyer is technically, what's it called? Is like your mobile client, is your a server client, right? So if depending on how you want to set this up, you might end up with like the buyer client actually caching the product when they look at it and look at these details. You might want to consider that. So.
Okay. Thanks. So let's address the images first. So let's say like the product can have different images. I would say like maybe up to 6. And what I'm thinking right now is we'll just have a list of like IDs.
Okay.
And we'll have a separate, let's see, I'm just gonna, well, data store. We'll have a separate data store for actually storing the images. And this would be a key value store. Because we don't need to store that much stuff here. We only care about the key and value. The key would be, in the product schema, the images would be basically a list of IDs, and each of this ID will map to a specific key in the blob database. And that would allow us to pull the images.
Okay.
Let's see. Why is this? That's gonna be how I'll be addressing images for now. And like you mentioned, let's move on to the next thing. Since most people are gonna be browsing Facebook on their phones,
I think this is not enough. Because I get it. You're gonna get a key value store. You're gonna pull the image from there. But then, what happens if I am doing this from like the buyer, the merchant is in, let's say, the Philippines, right? And then it's me, in the United States. Do you think this might present some kind of issue?
Yes. Let's see. In terms of okay. So even though Marketplace will only allow transactions in the US, we may have a merchant in a different country. Let's actually so instead of like diving straight to the buyer, let's actually talk more about the database and how we'll handle all the different data. I'm trying to move these texts away for now.
Okay, sure, that's fine.
Okay, so let's see. We need to handle images. Also handle different locations. Let's see. In that case, so initially, like my first idea is that we would kind of replicate Actually, let's see, replicating, would that be a good idea here? If a user in Philippines uploads a image, we send it to data store, but we want to be able to serve it quick enough. Yeah, I would. Yeah, okay. I think I would still go with replications for now. So let's say we have different.
Let me propose something. What about CDN?
Wouldn't that be pretty similar to like a cache? Pretty much a.
Pretty much, you're caching the blobs. You're caching the blobs data store, right?
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I'm saying. What about that?
Yeah, that works too. We can have a, but yeah, I just haven't read much enough on CDNs. But yeah, if we want to serve, I guess like static content, like images and videos, we can obviously, I guess like not videos in this case, but we'll be serving images. We can use CDN to allow us to retrieve and serve these static content a lot quicker. I'm just gonna rename this to CDN. Let's see.
I mean, I do have a. I think I have a CDN here. No, I don't.
View.
Oh, never mind. Okay, yeah, just call it a CDN or whatever.
Okay. Yeah. CDN, and we may have it in different locations. Okay, why does it not copy the same? We have CDNs at different locations, and that kind of allows us to serve static content a lot quicker. I'm trying to remember. Okay, so CDNs are more like caches.
Yeah, they're global caches, essentially. You can think of it like that.
Okay. So, okay. Yeah, so we'll have a key value store, and users from different regions can write to this data store, and eventually this stuff in here will get served to the CDN. Let's see. We may have we have users around the world. I'm just thinking about like the read to write ratio. I guess they would be. I guess like reading is definitely will happen a lot more, and that's what the CDN will take care of. Okay. In terms of writing, I'm thinking of like having a single writer. My first idea is thinking of having a single writer, and we'll have like we could potentially have like a few more followers to serve reads. Let's see.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna say let's stop there for that.
Okay.
I want to address one last thing.
Okay.
What I would say your schema. You did say you had merchants list the what's it called, the freaking. Yeah, the products, right? You had merchants list a bunch of products under them, right?
Yeah.
Why this instead of just having a list of product IDs and merchants in a like key value store?
I guess like my first idea was just like having edges.
Okay.
I guess like I just wasn't like able to talk that much and reach that point of like thinking about an alternative option to this. But typically like when I guess like when I do think about like database schemas, I usually think about like edges. So because like when I guess like why I don't bring up like having a separate key value store of storing products to merchants and merchants to products typically is because I would then need to talk about the the consistency and making sure it stays consistent, because we have to manage that key value store. That's why my typical like first idea approach is just to like say like, hey, we have edges, and then when we think that this may not be efficient and it doesn't allow us to be quick enough, then I'll start thinking about like a separate solution.
Okay, I see.
Makes sense.
So I'm gonna stop here because I think
Okay.
there's plenty to talk about already. So
Okay.
what do you think you did well? What do you think you didn't do well?
So I think like the initial part of like me talking about like the scenarios and the use cases, I think that was fine. Although I would say I feel like I spent more than necessary time on like these scenarios, like for example, like the stuff we talked about. And I think that kind of comes back to bite me because I end up not having enough time to go through the other stuff, and I think I didn't do that well in terms of like data storage and data handling, which is typically I think the part where I don't do that well, if that makes sense. But I feel like I did better from a user story. It's just like I didn't do as good in the data handling.
Yep. Basically, you kind of hit that. You definitely went through the user story, which I thought was fine, but then it's like you spent too much time on there. Because essentially, the story is just really a merchant is going to list his shit, right? And then he's going to delete and edit and delete, right? And so you identify the first problem. Well, how do we propagate prices while the buyer is looking at it? And I think that's a question that you should be able to answer at the end. This kind of gets into the whole the cap theorem, and I would suggest you look into that as a guiding compass. But essentially, you would basically want eventual consistency for sure. But I think we would be happy to delay the price propagation changes in order to get availability, so that people can see the exact same price everywhere. So like let's say for instance, it's like $15, right? For an item, and then eventually the merchant says, "Nah, I want it to be $10," right? Eventually, when the buyer goes to checkout, we can and they commit to buying it, we can do a price check and then reject them. That's one way of handling this, because for this particular product design, I was hoping that not only would you consider listing, delisting, and buying, I was hoping that you would also take the initiative of saying, okay, well, maybe we can use the checkout flow as well to be able to handle some of these issues that we may have. As like, it's a part of it about thinking ahead. Can we use would it be okay for us to do the checkout flow after using this product to handle some of the issues that we're having? So that's one of the things I was just keeping in mind. Like, how does your product work in the space? And I kind of want you to take notes on this. How does your product work in tandem with the greater system? What else is this going to actually be used for?
Sorry, say that again.
What else is this product going to be used for? What are the other steps in this? You're only designing one piece of the machine, right? You need to ask yourself how this fits into the greater puzzle. So, for instance, when a person adds a item to cart, can we use a checkout flow to try and handle some of these issues? Now, this doesn't mean necessarily that you need to design it. You just need to know whether you can offload some of the responsibilities to it or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good. Next thing. So CDN versus Blob. So Blob is just really, like you said, it's a key value store with like images and stuff. But the CDN is just a global network, a global cache, right? So whenever you push something to like a Blob store, and I'm pretty sure Facebook does this, is that what will happen is that there'll be a push request over to all the CDNs, and then it'll propagate that particular update. So like let's say for instance a user, or let's say a developer actually wants to update something on their side. Like for instance, maybe we have something on our server that is like an image and that needs to be updated, right? Like an image on the Uber website or something. That will get pushed to the Blob store. Blob store will push it out to CDN. CDN will then be hit by the web server in order to as their local source of truth. Because keep in mind, you're not replicating the Blob store necessarily. In fact, I would suggest you don't. You're actually replicating the CDNs whenever you do replication. So the servers that live in Russia is gonna have their own CDN server 1, right? And then the servers that live in New York have a CDN server 2, right? But all these CDNs are connected to the same Blob store. Make sense?
I see. And so the Blob store would just be in some, I would say, like a central location, and all the CDNs would just kind of refer back to it. And if there's a cache miss, they would always just go back to that same Blob store.
More or less, yeah. So it's kind of interesting. So this is hold up. There's like some freaking spammer in the chat.
Sure.
Yeah. So we didn't actually talk about buying the item actually, and that's kind of like more or less a consequence of like kind of running out of time because you kind of spent too much time doing other things. So another error case I think you would want to think about is what happens if there are an item that you didn't that isn't available anymore. Like we talked about eventual consistency. What if a buyer selects an item, then goes out to and then the item is no longer available actually when they go to check out. This is like
Yeah.
something that you could say, hey, yeah, they'll figure it out when they check out, right? And then you
Yeah.
have that update propagate. So it's again like trying to figure out what
Yeah.
you can address and what you can't address with this.
Okay. I think the one big thing I realized was like definitely time management.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely spent a lot of time on the use cases, and yeah, it sucks because I feel like I could do better on this problem, mainly because it's pretty close to my domain.
Yeah.
That's why, yeah, and then I felt like I wasted a lot of time on like the use cases.
You did.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing I realized on this one. Yeah, like for example, like the if an item is not available anymore, like I could definitely talk about that just because that's something I deal with as well at work. So yeah. So in terms of like time management, do you kind of like think about like the different things you want to talk about up front, like when you first received the problem, like the first like 5 to 10 minutes, as you're scoping out the different use cases? Do you kind of like at that point kind of determine like, okay, these are the things I need to talk about, and I'll have to kind of make sure I go through all of them, or like?
I do the minimum viable product. I think I mentioned in my video. Just make sure that the thing works out of the box on a very simple case. So, for instance, what is a very simple case? A merchant is going to wake up one morning, creates a product, right? And then he decides to post. He post it, and then maybe wants to do some editing, like with the description, maybe add some photos, and maybe at some point he wants to delete it, right? Buyer is going to see that product, and then he's going to add it to cart and buy it. And then what I would do at that point is literally say, okay, how can I create a create my service that way a merchant can create things in the store, and then a buyer can add to cart and check out. That's it. That's a part of the product that I want to talk about, right? So this is like where I would then immediately go into your relational database schema, and I think your schema is pretty fair. I think the SKU is definitely a good mention, and then also like the images as well. I had to remind you of that actually. So this tells me that you're not focused on the core issue. You're trying to hit like all these different points very shallowly instead of trying to hit the minimum viable product very well. That's the wrong thing. You want to be able to you want to make sure that the product actually works. Okay. Like all this fancy stuff that you come up with is going to be a consequence of like having bigger traffic, or maybe the buyer doing something a little bit more complicated than the minimum viable product. So like for instance, the checkout and buy. It's going to be an interesting. That's like what happens afterwards. So then the other thing I kind of pointed out was like, hey, wait a minute, you have a merchant that has a list of products. That's great as a minimum viable product, but then what happens if you start scaling the number of merchants and number of maybe some other operations that you might want to do? Then I would start thinking about, okay, well, maybe we just have a list of product IDs and then the merchants that they belong to. And this can actually prove to be like a scalable solution in some different cases, depending on what you decide to do. So this is something to think about. Like again, the trade-off is that you're constantly querying for all the items that the merchant has, which may or may not actually be what you want, because the primary goal is to hit a store, get all the IDs. And it just depends on like what you want the faster access to be. And that's an argument that you may want to actually be able to discuss. You could like the moment when I brought that up, you could have said, "Hey, well, the use case doesn't. I don't believe that the use cases that our system is going to go through it warrants that kind of change yet." That's also fair, And then you could argue for and against the case. But the point is that I felt like you didn't really address that as well. And going on from that, that leads to this kind of like CDN. It's like, okay, well, if we're talking about addressing things, well, you need to be able to understand at least how the blob and CDN works. And I'll tell you this, like, you also need to, cause I'm sure you've seen this at Facebook. People are uploading to CDN and uploading their stuff whenever they release a new product, right? So it's kind of important that you actually understand how this actually works in the backside. So it's like directly related to your work, like you said. So I definitely spend some time actually kind of understanding how it works, because it's not just good for the interview, it's also good for your own career. And then also, like, what I would also talk about is actually how to test this as well. So if I'm testing all the APIs, how do I want to do this? Do I want to create a separate web server? Do I want to create dummy merchants? Do I want to add some dummy products? Like, how does that work? And I argue, hey, well, maybe we want to have its own test server. Maybe we want to mix, maybe we're okay with like mixing some level of some testing dummy product in because it's too hard to hit a separate server, or maybe it's not. Those are the other things that I would definitely recommend that you think about it, because you didn't get time to doing that. But being able to test the creation of this, yeah, I think is pretty key. And you didn't actually get to that. What does your testing infrastructure look like? Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. So would you consider testing as something that would you say testing is something to consider about in almost every system design interview? Because I just like it makes sense now that you brought it up, but like I just like you never mentioned about it and I never really like thought about it, and not many people talk about it. Yeah, not many people talk about testing when it comes to like system design.
Mm-hmm.
So just trying to understand like what's your opinion on it?
My opinion is that for most product people, they only need to understand what APIs they need to test, and then like, are you gonna test it on the? I think you guys might have at Facebook. You might be familiar with this concept of edge gateway, or you're testing the server directly. That might be something that you want to consider. Like what scenarios do you want to test and why? So, for instance, what are the flows that you may want to be able to secure against? So, one of them is going to be, the merchant going to be adding, deleting, editing, right? And
Yeah.
then and then what happened, and then I would say one of the flows that to test is like some of the weird ones as well. So, the merchant is going to list a product, delete it, then the buyer decides to buy it. That's one thing I would mention. I'm mentioning all these edge cases is definitely really key to being able to, I think, personally succeed in these. It's only like 5 minutes at the end where you actually start thinking about like all the really weird stuff that can happen and you want to protect against. But in terms of like testing infrastructure, it's more or less kind of, more or less like a way of testing your actual service. So I'm not to explain this well, but let me give you another example. Another way to test something like for buy orders, in making sure if you're like, say for instance you want to test the resilience of your service, right? Well, maybe you want to test like not just the valid buy orders, but maybe you want to pepper with some invalid buy orders, right? So in order to test the pathway through like your service system, right? So like for instance, if you're using Kafka and some like multiple services, right? Well, then maybe you want to be able to make sure that the paths are resilient by injecting some synthetic requests that are totally crappy. That's a testing strategy that you could use. So there's many different ways to test it. Testing the quality, how well your service holds up under load, testing the user interactions as well. And so when you actually think about like the way your service interacts in the greater ecosystem, these questions are actually going to become a lot more apparent. And this gets into a much more complicated topic. But my point here is to really think about like all the shit that can go wrong, not just as a user, but also as the owner of that particular service, and how that works with the infrastructure that you're currently working in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I know I'm getting a little bit abstract here, and it's hard to really see this until you've actually seen it, So I would say definitely for like the products that you do, or at least if you can, try to ask like your colleagues your tech lead, how they planned to actually battle test their services and what they do to keep that testing ongoing.
Okay. It's just like
go ahead.
No, it definitely makes sense, but it's just like I feel like me running out of time and not being able to like go through the rest of the problem, kind of like block me from like thinking further ahead. Like say if I've like went through the MVP, then I might be able to like come up with like some of the stuff you mentioned. But I guess like just like because I wasn't able to complete the initial problem, I never got to these edge cases and testing.
Yeah, I mean that is a consequence of you not going to the MVP as well. So definitely, I think in the future you definitely want to do that. And then the CDN as well. That component you definitely need to know. It doesn't matter if you're like you don't need to like talk about load balancers or anything like that. But the CDN, I imagine, is something that you and every other product engineer should interact with on a daily basis, and I think it's almost unacceptable that you don't know how that really works. In fact, like I'll give you a story. One of the things I worked on Uber, our backend engineer literally did not know how to operate the key store CDN, and I had to figure that shit out. And I thought that was completely unacceptable, because why ask a mobile engineer how your own fucking backend works? I should just have to worry about the API, right? And the service and the contract of that. And so it got to a point where I was like, okay, fine, I figured it out, fuck it. But then he ended up getting promoted. I have no fucking idea why. But I thought that's like completely fucking unacceptable.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying that the reason why I'm telling you this story is so that way you can get away with a lot of shit, but don't fucking get away with that shit.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
make sure you understand like how your shit actually works, and I think the best way to do that, look at what you do day to day, and ask yourself how all the components you work with work underneath the hood.
Yeah. So I guess my direction with like this problem was that I was trying to like first define like the use cases and then talk about a very simple solution. And I guess like being missing out on the images was a big thing.
Yeah.
But then by the time I got to it, it was already like a little too late. And I wasn't able to get to the buyer's stuff as well.
Yep. Basically, you getting hung up on all these fancy ass cases killed you. Get the minimum viable product out, ship it, then add more if you have time.
Okay.
So that, let me actually go back to your sheet, and then let's see if we can schedule. Let's see what your schedule looks like for this week. I know we're spending a lot of time on this like system design because we're really striking for the L4, but I really also want to make sure you're prepared for like the L3 stuff. So yeah, we did run over our original estimate because like what's it called? I'm bringing it up right now. We slated for 11:28 to 12:05, and then we had bumped it up over 2 weeks. Maybe that's like that was like me being like overprotective of like making sure that you were going to be okay.
Yeah.
But I think it's fair. We could have. I think I just gave you 2 weeks just because of that. But I'm sure that you could be okay. So let's do this. Let me go ahead and change this from 12:5 to this is 12:6, 6 to 12:12. So what I want you to do is to really practice this idea of flow. This like we want to get you into that instincts mode, right? So I want to start with easy problems. This is where I'm going to say it's okay to do leak code. I know you've been doing that, but I want I was kind of like hesitant on recommending leak code, but I want you to actually start doing this. Some leak code problems right now. But let me ask, is there any portion of EPI that you skipped out
on? No, I mean I did the ones that are listed here, but I didn't do the ones that are not listed here.
Okay. And I think that let me look at the Grokking book. I mean not Grokking book, but EPI. Let me see.
So yeah, I guess like the other ones that we didn't do are like graphs, stacks, what else? Let me grab the book.
Yeah, I need to get it. Elements. Okay. Yeah. Dynamic programming, computing. Design problems. Actually, design problems might actually be something that might be helpful to you.
Okay. Yeah. Design. Wait. Are you talking about like the design problems, like domain specific problems, like design spell checker stuff like that? Is that coding or is that
I don't believe so. I think these ones are just the how would you design the architecture for that. Let me double check. No. These are like all the shit that how would you actually design the algorithm and how would what the things are gonna go wrong. Yeah, these might actually these are good mental exercises actually.
Okay. I go. I mean, I guess if anything, I could also go through. I could do leak code and like some problems from like the honors class from EPI.
Good idea. Yeah, let's do that. So I want you. Let's do the honors class as well. Good idea. Easy problems and then EPI. So let's say honors class, and I want you to try using your the idea of flow on that. So start with some easy problems, then go straight to the honors class, and then for system design, I'm gonna say, I don't remember if DDIA has a what's it called a chapter on CDNs actually. Hold up.
I don't.
Go ahead.
Yeah, they do not unless I haven't gotten into it, but I'm already at the stream processing part, and I don't see any CDNs.
Okay, let me go. Give me a sec. Google Play Store. Oh. Content. MapReduce data warehousing, encoding, node outages, replication. Oh yeah, you definitely need to read that. Transactions, asset transactions. Yeah, timeout delays, unreliable clocks. Consistency there. Oh wow, you actually went to batch processing as well.
Oh wait, yeah, that's the one that I skipped to do stream first. I didn't skip any chapters except for batch,
Okay.
and I'm doing stream
I see.
right now.
I'm gonna tell you batch processing, it's fine to know the technicals underneath, but really that one just kind of relies on, hey, I can do things at once instead of what's called just one at a time. That's
Yeah.
really not much to it.
Yeah, that's why I skipped it because I felt like it's more important knowing stream processing.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
they don't
sorry,
talk about CDNs. Okay, that's fine. Or blobs. Those are relatively new tech anyway. Okay, that's fine. So then, let me think. Because if you've already burnt through most of DDIA, there's very little that Because
I'm gonna go back to revisit some of them because it's just like my first read. But you know, DDIA being DDIA, it's a lot of content. So I'm probably gonna revisit like storage, retrieval, replication,
Yeah.
and partitioning. I think those are the three main ones.
Yeah.
And probably consistency. I'll probably go back to those.
Yeah, and if there's any chapters that mention the cap theorem, I think you should use that. You should look at those as well.
Okay.
Okay. Other than that, so then DDIA reread. And so yeah, we're focused on algorithms this week. And we can get back to system design on a later date. But I want you to at least spend some time at work to try and ask people how these things actually work.
Okay.
And I think it'll work in with like what you're doing at work as well, because it's part of your work. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Other than that, I think we can end a little bit early. I think we covered most of the issues. Any other questions so far?
No, I don't think I have any questions right now.
Okay, so I'll let you go early. Thursday's replay. I want you to send me the honors class, or if you're feeling swamped with work, we can push it to Friday.
Okay, I'll let you know.
All right, sounds good. Talk to you later then.
All right, have a good one.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Okay, I mean, I think he's on the cusp of doing really, really well. Like, I think he can actually ace every single question. Definitely he's still a little bit stiff, but that's going to be hopefully we get over that. And hopefully this week will help us do that. I want him to practice the idea of, like, flowing through the problems rather than trying to mechanically solve it. So, there are a lot of testing, scale checks, load stress tests. Yeah, you could literally write an entire freaking book on how to test your services. And it's just like being able to suggest these ideas and knowing which ones are relevant. I think this is the one part where actually having all the information is going to really help you. It's more than execution, It's just like, how do I describe this? It's like, on one point, you do need to know which info is relevant and execute on it. On the other hand, stuff like testing is you only really know which info is relevant once you've actually gone through it. That's kind of the thing. So that's where the weird part of this part comes in, is that knowing the knowledge actually helps you a lot more here than the execution. So we have some testing, like integration testing also, and it's for the algorithm. The honors class basically is this section in elements of programming interview. So if you look here, there is this chapter called the honors class, right? And these are just really, really hard problems. That's basically it. So you're not really missing out on much. I think most people don't even get to this, most of my clients. But I think since I've been working with him and he's been like, seems to be pretty studious about it, and I mean, the results show, I think we want to try and practice with these. And I think that's going to really tell us how, like, it's going to really give us a good signal as to whether or not he's ready. I personally think he's pretty much ready if he can strike that kind of offer from Amazon. But I want him to do so exceptionally well that they have no choice but to give him an L4 offer. So, I mean, right now, I technically could let him go and let him run, and he would probably do very, very well on the L3 interviews. But, L4, starting system design from scratch, and juggling all these things, it's going to take a little bit more time. But I think that if we can strike the L4 offer, I think it will all be worth it. So, are there any other questions? Did you enjoy me being a VTuber today? Going once? Going twice? 3 times? Okay, I guess no more questions from the crowd. Yeah, so hopefully we'll be able to stream on Thursday for his replay analysis. If not, we will go ahead and schedule it for Friday. Oh, I read DDIA 3 times cover, and that was enough for Amazon System Design. Yeah, I've only read DDIA like twice, but then individual chapters probably like 7 times, and I still can't grasp my mind around it. But yeah, I'm going to close out the stream. Thank you all for joining me. Hopefully we'll be able to stream on Thursday. If not, we'll stream on Friday for him. And with that, if you guys are in the crowd and want to get interview coaching as well like this, you can book me for interview coaching at eachhandtech.com. Links to my socials are in the description. Yeah, thanks for joining me, and have a good night.